Okay, let's bring it back for discussion. Director Rouse?
Yeah, I very much appreciate the testimony. I myself was a brick and mortar operator for almost 40 years in downtown Santa Barbara. So I know exactly what your points are. I know exactly the challenges you face and you have every day. And the unfair competition is really a big issue. It's a big issue in Santa Barbara. We also have, as Ms. Irely pointed out, it's very, very labor intensive. We don't need new rules and regulations. We actually just need to be able to enforce current regulations. On top of, we need to go after our state representatives about some of these regulations that were intended to give more opportunities to people, while at the same time they're stealing opportunities from people in our communities, because these are, in fact, remote predatory operations that are coming into our cities, and they're doing this. And I've been in very close touch with the president of the California Restaurant Association in Sacramento, because they're trying to do a statewide push for exactly the same reason, because they represent all of you operators out there. So code enforcement is a big deal. Code enforcement is a labor-intensive thing to do. And as Mr. Seifer can say, it's hard to even get out and do their mandate, which is I think, was it twice a year that you're supposed to be in brick and mortar operations, Mr. Seifer? Is that?
Yeah, generally at least twice a year for the higher risk facilities. We get out and
right, and it's hard for them to fulfill that, given the personnel that they have. It's hard for us to get out with the number of fire marshals we need to go out and enforce open flame, because you have food carts, food trucks, which are regulated and licensed normally. And then you also have these open food street cooking operations, which are, frankly, is kind of our top priority right now, because the clear and present danger to the public. But going back to your concerns here, we understand the competition from both a business side and from the government side, because you guys are paying insurance and taxes and whatnot, and they are not. And so this is something that we are very concerned about. Thank you.
Director Hartman? Did you want to go around first? Okay. Well, I have to get out of here in a couple of minutes. I've got another meeting I got to get to. So I'll go ahead and do mine, then I'm going to pass it to the vice chair to finish off. Well, first off, I would just want to thank everybody for being here, just showing up on a middle of the week in the afternoon. I know if you're running a business is not where you want to be. So thank you for being here. And I hope you understand we are trying to tackle something that crosses multi-jurisdictional lines. It's very difficult without the state's help on this. When somebody said, that's gave the SB number, and that was made in Los Angeles, we don't get to pick which state laws we like and which ones we don't. We're not at the top of the heap. The state's here. We're here, and when the state says this is what the law is, we have to follow state law. What we can do, though, is we're also, and I think I see a couple of them, there are representatives here from our state representatives' offices. They're the ones that can actually make a significant impact by us getting legislation that would change some of these rules that would allow them the teeth in the enforcement to go out and do something. Our county public health, they don't like going and seeing a situation like they're looking at. But they also know if they try to find the person, they're going to disappear tomorrow. So it's a game of cat and mouse. And so I hope you understand that, first off, I just want to thank you two, because this is not something we normally deal with at SBCAG. This is transportation group. We deal with roads and traffic and freeways and those kinds of things. So that was kind of my question leaving this meeting is, I understand the desire to address this issue. It's obviously an injustice. It needs to be rectified. I'm not sure this is this is basically our only place where we cross jurisdictional lines and we all get to meet. So I understand why we brought it here. But I'm really interested in how do we move this from this position where we hear all these folks to action. I don't know if that's going to be a joint letter from all of us to our state representatives. What actually is the action item that we can take that folks can hold us accountable to as well. So I guess we'll hear about that more So Director Patino?
Yes. Director Hartman and Director Rouse, thank you so much for bringing this. I have come before the Board of Supervisors 2 different times on this issue because people in the city of Santa Maria have been concerned about it, and especially on the micro kitchens. And I felt like it wasn't like a big concern, but I was told that these were entrepreneurs, and I did not agree with that. Being in business myself, I know how that can affect any brick and mortar business. And so I think, we can sit here and say thank you very much, and I do thank all of you for being here today. But in the city of Santa Maria, seeing the crowd I have here today, I would certainly invite you to City Hall, and we figure out what we want done, because after this, because you've come here and you've spoken to all of us, and it's important that everybody hear it, and then figure out what we want to be done, what we want done, and take it to our assembly person, because this does not work in Santa Maria. This does not work for any of you. And I think that's what's important to do. If we break up into, say, the city of Santa Maria, the city of Santa Barbara, come up with the ideas that you have. We'll put it together, because I don't want to write just one letter and send it up to Sacramento and hope that something happens. I think we have to be organized. We figure out what we want done, and then put a group, say, in the Santa Ynez Valley together. And Director Hartman, you could do that. And then figure out what we want done. Have our assemblyman meet with us. He does come here periodically. We can meet with him here. We don't have to go all the way up to Sacramento, and let him know what we need and what we need to have done. And so if you agree to meet with me, I think that would be great. I think to our code and compliance officer there, Ms. Palacios, I wish you had brought the slide that said, sorry, that showed the fruit vendors, the fruit cart vendors. When our code compliance went into the backyard of where one of these cart vendors lived, they found the fruit, and it was full of maggots. Mm-hmm. These fruit vendors you see on the corner have no place to wash their hands. They have no restrooms. They can't keep anything clean. And it bothers me as to what people are buying and what they're ingesting. I've had complaints that some of these vendors are near the schools, so that when kids get out of school, they're buying some of these things. And I've had complaints about that. So we get these complaints. I turn them over to code compliance. Most of the time, we don't work on the weekends. That's a problem, because they're all out on the weekends. And then I'm thinking of one time, and I'm sure I called code compliance. We had a young mother pushing one of these carts around town, and she had a toddler with her. Now, you know good and well she's being trafficked, and that really bothers me. I can't imagine being a young mother and having a toddler with you. So I think we have a lot that needs to be done, not just specific to food vending, but everything else. We have flower vendors coming to Santa Maria. We have done something about that to get them out, but they just go out into the other streets. They're out maybe on Depot, or they're out on Donovan. So we have all of your names. I will certainly notify all of you, and we can call a meeting, and we can put together what we think needs to be done in Santa Maria. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Director Nelson,
Yes. Thank you, Chair Rouse. First of all, I really appreciate, again, this venue. I don't think we take advantage of this enough, to be honest, to talk about regional issues. There's other ones, and we try to do it through other committees, Elected Leaders Forum and others. I really think this is a great opportunity to do that, and I want to thank Director Kern for taking that up, and as well as the staff, or Director Hartman and Rouse, and the City of Santa Maria for their participation, because these are regional issues that are tough to tackle. I wanted to address a couple of comments that were made by public comment. One about things that we vote on our ballot versus what gets voted on by legislators. So we elect people who then vote, and then the governor signs those bills. So there's a little bit of difference there between those two things. So this is a lawful law that came from Sacramento. It's not something we got to vote on directly. We're not a democracy. We're a democratic republic. So we get to have these representatives that do these types of things. So that's where this law is coming from. That said, I looked it up, and it was our local legislators that actually voted for some of these laws too. So, your voice going back up to our local legislators and talking to them about why did they support these, why did they not consult with us would be really important. The other one, Efren's, one of my favorite restaurants. Love your carne asada burrito. I just wanted to talk about, how you were conflicted about, how this impacted your dad. He was started off as on the food cart, and then now you guys have a restaurant. And you guys are really living the American dream. That's why we support things like the micro home kitchens. That's why we support lawful food carts. There's a process, and we're trying to create low barriers of entry so people can move up the ladder, because it is really hard on day one to get to a brick and mortar. And so we want to create those stepping stones. But what we're seeing here is that people are not even taking advantage of those stepping stones, right? They're not even following the lawful process to get the help that they need so they can learn and they can build their business and eventually have a brick and mortar location, which should be the goal for all these businesses. So, what we see here, I think, is lawlessness, and it leads to chaos. This is the same thing we have happening with our homeless issue throughout our community, is that we've turned a blind eye to some of these things, and it continues to get worse and worse and worse, and we don't address them. To me, I don't think we need to go to Sacramento here. It's clear that people are not following the law, and so we need to empower our enforcement arms, whether it's our code enforcement, it's public health, and fund them appropriately to do what they need to do and empower them to go ahead and follow those misdemeanor filings. And then I really think we need to be looking at confiscation of product and equipment. You confiscate the product, they're not going to be able to come back in 2 hours. And we already know it's unhealthy, so I don't know why we're turning a blind eye and walking away from that. That's ridiculous. If you confiscate their cooking material, that's going to get really expensive really quick and really old. And I don't know why we can't, rent a few freezer trucks for a few months, and the word will get out there. If we go hard and heavy, it will send a message. If we go ahead and rent some storage yards for some of this equipment or a storage unit, I think between all of our jurisdictions, we can fund that. I don't know why we don't. I would love to stick general fund money if all the other jurisdictions would do the same thing. If we all partner together to fund public health on this, I think we can get something done, and I think we can get this done soon. We don't have to wait for Sacramento to solve these problems for us. We have existing laws. No, we have existing laws to do it. So let's join our forces. Maybe this should be direction to our CEOs and our city managers that you guys get around, you guys come up with a plan. We're all going to support you at our city councils and move this forward and fund this, making sure that the right enforcement teams are out there so that we can actually get something done here. It is a public safety issue. It's unfair business practices, and it's completely unacceptable. And I think that the political momentum is there, and I really appreciate all the comments and my colleagues for their leadership on bringing this forward to the public.
Thank you, Director Infante.
Thank you very much. A couple of things. I agree with everything that's been said, and I love the fact that the business owners have come here to tell us what's going on. But what I just heard Director Nelson talk about it's going to take some time. It's going to take some funds. Fine, we can get to that, and I agree with that completely. I'm the mayor in Solvang. We don't have quite the problem you've got in Santa Maria or in some of the other areas, but we do have the issue, the big one that you saw on the screen there. One of the things we can do today, we've got the news media here. Why aren't we telling the residents of all of our communities that it's unsafe to go to these places so we get rid of their revenue stream? They're not going to hang around if they can't sell anything. So let's start, and all of you are involved, talking to the community. Let's get some newspaper reporting. Let's get something out there that says, it's unhealthy. We don't know what you're going to be eating if you buy from these vendors. And let's start the process there, and then we'll have the time to get the other things done that you were talking about. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Director Julian.
Yes, thank you for sharing this opportunity for us to discuss. I'm in Guadalupe. We have at least 12 family-owned restaurants. And they're mom and pop restaurants. They're the owners of the buildings. The workers are the mom and pops that thrive on their businesses. If you go into Guadalupe, there's 3 ways in, and every corner of Guadalupe that you can get into, there's a vendor. And that stops those individuals from basically going to the local restaurants, that again, the brick and mortar restaurants. So I think that that this effort, as far as the city of Guadalupe is concerned, they cannot survive if we don't move on this item in terms of protecting those local businesses. So I appreciate those restaurants that are here today to speak on this issue, and I think from the city of Guadalupe, we're going to do what we can to make sure that our local businesses are protected. So thank you.
Thank you. Director Hartman.
Well, again, thank you, Director Kern and SBCAG, for allowing us to use this forum, and thank you again to everyone who's come out. I see kind of a three-part strategy here. The first, I think, is a joint letter to the legislature. They had good intentions, but I think they're hurting the very people that they wanted to help, at least in our communities, and we need to make that clear. The problem with it's very difficult without misdemeanor enforcement capability under our health laws to issue notices of violation to somebody from out of town and actually enforce it. So we can use misdemeanor in our fire code and other things, and we'll try to do that. But I think we need to tell the legislature, you did a good job with microenterprise home kitchens. You did a good job with food trucks. You did a good job with brick and mortar, and you need to put that misdemeanor authority back in. That is what I think we should say in the letter. I'm not quite sure. We'll try to figure out how we organize, but I think having it from the 8 cities and the county would be very effective. So the second strategy is to publicize. We need people to understand this is unfair competition. This is unsafe. The labor is not treated well and is really problematic. People should not patronize these businesses. I've written op-eds. I'm writing another, so has Mayor Rouse. So we all need to do what we can to reach out to people so that we can turn the public tide. Because in the city of Santa Barbara, they go to enforce and they have patrons not understanding, and it can escalate. And so we all need to do what we can to help people understand all the issues associated with these unlawful vending. The third thing is I think we need to create a multi-jurisdictional task force. And I see, we've had the director of the county environmental health. We have our undersheriff in the back. Thank you, Undersheriff Bonner, for being here. We have fire listening in online. So we have our county departments understanding, hearing, ready to go. But we need to work with the cities, and because it's whack-a-mole, and they move. If push them out of Santa Barbara, they're up to the San Ynez Valley. Push them there, they're up to Santa Maria. So we need to have something coordinated, and I think if we work hard with we can have some sting operations. What we learned, we had a little meeting before this so that we could coordinate to some extent, and we learned a couple of things. And one is that there's a very few, from Santa Barbara's experience, a very few operators in the LA area who are sending all these out. So if we can trace it back and get evidence and get those people, hold them accountable, that's really important. And Director Seifert, you told a story about a cart operator as you opened your remarks for our initial meeting, and I thought that was a very compelling story. And I think the legislature should hear this.
Yeah, thank you, Director Hartman. The intent of this bill was obviously to create opportunities for those to start a business and to do it in a way that's safe. We had a situation in Santa Barbara where this gentleman, I won't include the name at this point in time, but they reached out to my staff, and basically they were working through the process and trying to get permitted for a mobile push cart. In doing so, they basically, he and his wife, they were out on a corner, they were trying to sell food, and they were trying to go through the permitting process. They were working with us closely. They were local residents. And they were approached by unpermitted food vendors from what they said was Los Angeles. They came up to the exact same location. They were told to leave by the unpermitted food vendors because they were told that that corner was their corner. The unpermitted food vendors from Los Angeles used intimidation tactics and told them that they were going to call some people and have them removed. They set up right next to them and started dumping grease and trash in their direction and essentially forced them to move out. And they essentially, this gentleman and his wife quit the business. They didn't pursue their permit. They didn't pursue their business. They decided that this was not something that was feasible or for them because of what they experienced. And it was really kind of heartbreaking for my staff walking through that process to try to help somebody that needed that income and that business to lawfully do it. And they were chased out.
So they're hurting our local businesses, and I just want to emphasize what I heard Director Mayor Rouse say: 20 to 30% when they set up right across. That's the loss that brick and mortar operations are facing. Restaurants don't make that; they don't have that kind of margin. So we're going to lose the very people we heard talk today. This is what we want to see. I'll state the obvious. Many of you who spoke today are Latino. You're the people who the legislation really wanted to help, and it's hurting. It's hurting badly. And so we need to take that message to our legislature and make that clear that the entrepreneurs that we want to help are being hurt. And so, three-part strategy: the letter to the legislature, publicize all of us in any way that we can. I'm ready to go with little flyers and hand them out to people at these stands with a little set of talking points. I could use some help, though. And then we'll work on creating a task force. As you've heard, this is very labor intensive to enforce, very expensive. And I think the only way we're going to do it is if we get together cross jurisdiction, because the county of Ventura has had to spend, I think, over $1 million, and they're still having, they still haven't fully wrestled it to the ground. So we need to coordinate. So again, thank you everyone for being here, from the county especially, and thank you Gina Fisher, who put a lot of effort in pulling all this together, and thank you to my colleagues for understanding how significant what people thought wasn't that significant an issue. It really is.
Thank you, Director Herman. Director Patino.
I had a couple of more comments. We're finding the vendors that are coming up to Santa Maria are from the San Fernando Valley. So, and another issue that was not mentioned is a lot of the trucks, the vending trucks, also dump their grease in the at the car washes, and the car washes themselves have to go through all kinds of stuff with what they have to be. Every 6 months they have to get that checked or something, whatever the residue is. And so you've got these trucks that are dumping their grease there. So that, I mean, this really gets amplified when you start looking at all. Thank you.
Mr. King, you and Director King.
Yes, not only am I a director here, but I'm the mayor of Buellton. And after 946 passed, I started seeing all these vendors started to come out on the streets, the flower vendors, the taco trucks, the fruit stands, and all this. And it was very frustrating to me, because all you people that have businesses, we require you to have licenses. We require you to have health certificates if you're serving food. And all these people on the street have to do none of this. So I've been pounding my fist on the table saying, why are we not doing something about this? How is this fair to our business people when you took 2 years? Cal Taco in my town, many of you maybe have been there, spent about 2 years remodeling the building. It was an empty building, remodeling that building. They got all the permits, everything they needed to do. And then after this 946 passed, people across the street at nighttime, while they're still open, are selling tacos and burritos across the street with open flames. Now people say, oh, okay, open flame. Well, it's hard for the fire marshal is the individual that is responsible for enforcing that. he's down in Santa Barbara. I mean, if I call him, is he going to come out in the middle of the night? Probably not. Okay. Not only being unfair to all these people, but they are creating a hazard on my street. They block the streets. You can't walk any farther than where they are blocking the entire streets. Out in Santa Ynez, they're on the side of the shoulder, like this dirt that was brought in. This is what they're doing to my dirt, which stinks in my valley. And so I went to a meeting up in Sacramento, and I went to our senator, and I said, hey, we're having an issue with this. We're having an issue that is not fair to our business owners. It's unhealthy. It's unsafe. They're not paying any taxes. They're not paying their employees a fair wage. And I've been told by my law enforcement some of these are trafficking and money laundering. So they're committing more than one crime. So I went to our senator and I said, hey, excuse me. I said, we have an issue with this. And she said to me that, yes, we realize that. I've had other cities tell me this in my jurisdiction, but we're looking to you local leaders to solve this problem. I agree with Joan that we should put together a task force, and all of us could probably pool money enough to go out and do stings, take these people's property, put it away again and again and again and again if we have to get them to know that Santa Barbara County is not open for business. And yeah. and I'm sitting here listening to this when I'm up in her office, and I'm thinking to myself, well, I'm just a dumb cop, ex-cop, and I'm thinking to myself, nobody took into consideration the unintended consequences and the sacrifice that our business owners are having to do for these people undercutting them out on the sidewalks of our streets. Why don't you just repeal the law?
All right. Well, thank you, Director King. And I want to thank everybody that came and talked today. Like I said, I was in the business myself for 40 years. I understand it. Please know you're being heard by this board. Please know that we're frustrated too. And I would encourage everyone and anyone to contact also your state representatives. Do it in English or in Spanish. It really doesn't matter. It still counts. And these people need to know exactly what you're going through and how you feel. Sometimes your voice is louder than ours. Matter of fact, it really is louder than ours. So I appreciate you doing it. As far as, there's not an action item per se, but Director Hartman's suggestion, I believe, is something that we probably all agree with in terms of, okay, so.
Before we go, there is someone, Andrew Firestone, with his hand raised.
I'm sorry,
on Zoom. You still want to?
Sure, go right ahead.
Mr. Firestone, go ahead and speak.
Hi there, can you hear me out there?
We can.
Very good. My name is Andrew Firestone. I'm a business owner in Santa Barbara County, including a couple of restaurants, and I hear a lot of what's going on. I share that frustration. I think immediately what people think, though, is that we just think we don't like competition. And obviously that's not the case. There's a lot of other issues at hand here. And two of the things that I really want to highlight beyond just the unfair business practice is one, the environmental impact that has been talked about before in this meeting, and the dumping of grease into drains, storm drains, public drains, and where that ends up, which is our watershed. Santa Barbara County and the Central Coast has always been incredible stewards of our environment. It's what brings so many tourists and visitors, and what makes life on the Central Coast so livable is that we respect our environment and we take care of it. People that come in from out of town to dump their grease, to throw their trash on the ground, to use the environment as bathrooms are not respecting it. The second thing that I also want to highlight is the fact that these places that get set up on our sidewalks are not respecting our ADA pathways and are making it impossible for people with movement disabilities to be able to access paths of egress, which is straight up illegal. And if restaurants here, if they wanted to go set up tables and chairs on the sidewalk, they would get removed for no other reason than it is illegal to impede the pathway for ADA rules and restrictions. So these are two areas, environmental and ADA, that I think need to be addressed because that is illegal. It is places that we spend an incredible amount of time and resource. And if we have a partnership with our environmental partners, whether that is Heal the Ocean, whether that is the Creeks Department of Santa Barbara County, whether that is Surfrider, Channel Keeper, I think that we can make some incredible progress because this is what they do. They protect our environment. Secondly, and I know I'm rambling here, but secondly is to engage the state in terms of our ADA access and those advocates to make sure that everybody has a safe and legal way to make their way down a sidewalk. And if someone's impeding that, that is illegal. And that is not a county thing, that's not a city thing, that's just a human rights thing. So thank you for all the work you're doing. I know you're listening to what we're saying. I know you're frustrated as we are, and I thank you for your advocacy.
Thank you, Mr. Firestone. Santa Barbara, do you have a comment to directors down there?
Yeah, thank you, Vice Chair Rouse. And I just wanted to speak up. I appreciate this conversation. I can sense, even though not being in the room, the level of concern. I've learned a lot, and I support Director Hartman's suggestion of a task force. And I also just want to echo one of the comments that she made about the intention behind the state law was to provide the economic opportunities that so many people are doing lawfully, doing with permits. And I just want to make that point because, again, people are struggling economically. And if this reality, as I'm learning a lot right now, is actually hurting those who are doing it by the books, that's a deep concern to me. But I don't want to lose sight. I don't want to lose sight of the fact that this is an important economic pathway for so many entrepreneurs in the business of providing food and serving some needs. You see it, some needs as people are laborers are going to work early in the morning. And so, again, I want to really support those in our county who are doing this lawfully. And if the task force can strike that balance, that's the challenge, I believe. And I appreciate the speakers who spoke to that point. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Anyone else in Santa Barbara? I think you're it.
Yes,
okay.
This is Director Parodi. Thank you. Thank you so much. Here I am. Thank you so much, Director Rouse and Director Hartman, for bringing this to our attention and all the speakers. Although the city of Goleta has not had very many food vendors, that doesn't mean we're not going to. So I support all the suggestions that have been made. I like the idea of the letter to our legislators, making sure they hear us. Education to the public and the multi-regional task force. I feel that when we've worked together regionally on concerns, we get things done. So I support all those requests and suggestions. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Parodi. And with that, unless somebody else has a comment, I think we can probably close this item and move on. Thank you all.